She's too soft for business. The company needs stronger leadership. My brother Marcus' voice crackled through my phone speaker, dripping with the same condescension he had perfected since childhood. I sat in my London hotel room, staring out at the city lights while my family held their emergency board meeting back in Chicago. I was supposed to be focused on finalizing our biggest international deal yet, a $50 million contract that would transform our mid-size manufacturing company into a global player. Instead, I was listening to my family systematically dismantle everything I had built over the last 5 years. The vote is unanimous, my father announced, his CEO voice in full effect. Effective immediately, Emma Sullivan is removed from her position as Chief Operating Officer. Marcus will assume her responsibilities starting tomorrow. I didn't respond right away, letting the weight of their decision settle in the air. 5 years of 80-hour weeks, of sacrificing my personal life to modernize our family's struggling company, had led to this moment. They had waited until I was 4,000 miles away, busy securing our company's future, to vote me out. "Emma, did you hear what Dad said?" My sister Olivia chimed in. She had always played peacekeeper, even when peace meant sacrificing what was right. "We just think the company needs a different direction." A different direction? I almost laughed. Under my leadership, Sullivan Manufacturing had transformed from a regional supplier barely staying afloat to a company on the verge of international expansion. But that had never been enough for them. Every success was met with criticism, every innovation questioned because it wasn't how things had always been done. "I understand," I said finally, keeping my voice neutral. "Is there anything else?" "That's it? No argument?" Marcus sounded almost disappointed. He had probably prepared for a fight, ready to list all the reasons I was unqualified despite my MBA and years of experience. "You're just going to accept this? What's there to argue?" The vote was unanimous. I glanced at my watch. 12 hours from now, I had a meeting with Harrison Industries, our potential new partner, a meeting my family didn't even know about. "I'll send my resignation letter in the morning." "Well," my father said, clearly thrown by my calm acceptance. "We'll have HR process your exit package. And Emma, this is for the best. You're just not cut out for the cutthroat nature of this business." I ended the call without responding, then turned back to my laptop where the Harrison Industries contract sat open. 5 months of careful negotiation had led to this moment. Harrison was looking to outsource their manufacturing, and I had positioned Sullivan perfectly to take it on. The contract would triple our production capacity overnight. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Don't worry, sis, I'll take good care of your department. Maybe now you can focus on finding a husband instead of trying to play businesswoman." I archived the message without responding. Let them think they had one. Let them believe I was the same pushover they'd always assumed I was. In exactly 30 days, when the Harrison contract was announced, they would learn exactly who they had underestimated. Opening my email, I began drafting a message to James Harrison, the CEO I'd been working with closely over the past months. We had built a strong rapport, bonding over being second-generation business leaders trying to modernize traditional companies. He had no idea I was about to be ousted from my family's business. As far as he was concerned, I was the face of Sullivan Manufacturing. "James, I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to touch base before our meeting tomorrow regarding some organizational changes at Sullivan." The next morning, I walked into Harrison Industries' London headquarters wearing my favorite power suit and my most confident smile. Security directed me to the executive floor where James was waiting in the conference room. "Emma, good to see you in person finally," he greeted me warmly, gesturing to the chair beside him. "I've got the team assembled and we're ready to finalize everything, unless there are any last-minute concerns." I sat down, placing my laptop on the table. "Actually, James, there is something we should discuss before we proceed. I'm no longer with Sullivan Manufacturing as of this morning." The room went silent. James' smile faded as he processed my words. "I don't understand. You've been our primary contact throughout this entire negotiation. My family held an emergency board meeting last night and voted me out. They don't know about this deal. I've kept it confidential as we discussed. I paused, letting that sink in. Before we go any further, I want to be completely transparent about my position. James leaned back in his chair, studying me carefully. I see. And I assume your family will be reaching out soon to take over these negotiations? They don't even know these negotiations exist, I replied calmly. The question is, James, do you want to work with a company that pushed out the person who modernized their entire operation, or would you prefer to work with that person directly? His eyebrows rose. What exactly are you suggesting? I opened my laptop, pulling up a business plan I'd been developing in secret for months. I'm suggesting that instead of contracting with Sullivan Manufacturing, you work with my new company, Summit Industries. I've secured funding, have a facility lined up, and most importantly, I have a team of skilled workers ready to follow me, the same team that has delivered Sullivan's best results over the past 5 years. James' expression shifted from concern to interest. You've been planning this? Let's just say I've learned to be prepared. My family has a history of unpredictable decisions. I turned the laptop toward him. Summit can deliver everything we discussed with the same timeline and quality guarantees. The only difference is you'll be working directly with the person who made Sullivan successful, without the family drama getting in the way. For the next hour, we discussed logistics, timelines, and details. By the time I left Harrison Industries, I had a signed letter of intent for Summit to take over the $50 million contract. My family had no idea that while they were voting me out, I was walking away with the biggest deal in company history. Back in my hotel room, I finally allowed myself a moment to process everything. My phone had been buzzing steadily with messages from family members, ranging from concerned to condescending. Olivia had sent 3 paragraphs about how she had tried to defend me, but you know how Dad and Marcus are. My mother suggested meeting for lunch when I returned, as if being voted out of the family company was a minor inconvenience. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the next steps. I had 30 days before the Harrison contract would be publicly announced. 30 days to get Summit Industries operational. 30 days until my family realized exactly what they had thrown away. Opening my laptop, I began composing emails to key Sullivan employees, the ones I knew were loyal to me rather than the family name. By midnight, I had confirmations from our top project manager, 3 senior engineers, and most of our skilled manufacturing team. They would all resign from Sullivan within the week, ready to start fresh with Summit. My father had always said I was too soft for business. What he never understood was that treating people with respect, building genuine relationships, and valuing talent over family ties wasn't softness, it was smart business. While he and Marcus ruled through intimidation, I had built a loyal team who believed in my vision. Looking out at the London skyline, I thought about all the times my family had underestimated me, the patronizing comments about my little improvements to the company, Marcus taking credit for my innovations in board meetings, my father dismissing my concerns about our outdated production methods. They thought removing me from my position would force me back into the role they had always wanted for me, the quiet, agreeable daughter who would eventually settle down and stop trying to prove herself in a man's world. Instead, they had given me the push I needed to break free completely. In 30 days, when the Harrison contract was announced and they realized their biggest potential client had signed with their daughter's new company instead, they would finally understand exactly who they had dismissed. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus, Dad's letting me redecorate your office. Don't worry, I'll keep your little participation trophies safe. Maybe donate them to the children's hospital or something. I smiled, archiving the message without responding. Let him redecorate. Let them all think they had one. In 30 days, they would learn that underestimating me had been their biggest mistake. And I would be ready. The Chicago skyline looked different from this side of the river. I stood in my newly leased office space, watching the sunset reflect off the buildings downtown. Somewhere over there, in Sullivan Manufacturing's headquarters, my family was probably still celebrating their victory. It had been 2 weeks since the board meeting, and my resignation letter had been met with exactly the response I'd expected. My father sent a terse email acknowledging receipt, Marcus made some snide comments in our family group chat about dead weight, and Olivia called 3 times to tell me how sorry she was, but maybe this is for the best. None of them had noticed that half their senior staff had quietly submitted their resignations. Miss Sullivan? Michael Chin, my former, and now future, head of operations, knocked on the door. The construction crew is ready to start the facility modifications tomorrow. We should have production capability within 10 days. I turned from the window, smiling at the man who'd been one of my most trusted employees at Sullivan. When I called to tell him about Summit Industries, he hadn't hesitated. How many came with you today? 15 more signed their contracts this morning, he replied, checking his tablet. That's nearly 80% of the skilled production team. Your brother's been too busy redecorating your old office to notice the exodus. That was Marcus, always focused on appearances over substance. He probably spent more time choosing new furniture than reviewing operations reports. Any word from the family? Michael asked carefully. He'd worked at Sullivan long enough to understand the dynamics at play. I shook my head. Radio silence, except for the occasional passive-aggressive text. My mother invited me to her charity gala next week. She thinks I'm taking a break to find myself or something equally condescending. The charity gala. I had almost forgotten. Every year, the Sullivan family hosted a lavish fundraiser for local business development. It was more about showing off their success than actual charity, but it was where all the major players in Chicago manufacturing came to network. This year's event will be interesting, to say the least. My phone buzzed, an email from James Harrison confirming our timeline for the contract announcement. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. In 2 weeks, when Sullivan Manufacturing realized they'd lost their biggest opportunity to their own cast-off daughter, the looks on their faces would be priceless. Michael, I said, turning back to my operations director, how quickly can we get our branding on the production floor? He grinned, understanding immediately. The Summit Industries logo can be up by tomorrow afternoon. Planning something special? Let's just say I want everything to look professional when potential clients visit. I didn't mention that those potential clients would likely include my shell-shocked family members in about 2 weeks. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. While Sullivan Manufacturing carried on obliviously, Summit Industries was taking shape at remarkable speed. The advantage of having brought over so many experienced staff was that everyone knew exactly what needed to be done. I had just finished a conference call with our equipment suppliers when Olivia's name flashed on my phone. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won out. Hello, Olivia. Emma, thank God you answered. Have you heard what Marcus is doing to the company? Her voice was tight with panic, unusual for my normally composed sister. I haven't been keeping track, I replied carefully. I'm sure Marcus has everything under control. She laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. He's gutted the modernization program you started. Says it's unnecessary overhead. Dad's letting him do whatever he wants, and now half the senior staff has quit. No one seems to know where they've gone. I smiled, thinking of those same missing staff members currently setting up operations at Summit. That sounds challenging. I'm sure Marcus knows what he's doing, though. After all, that's why they voted me out, right? Emma, please, Olivia pleaded. Can't you talk to them? Maybe if you apologize. Apologize? I cut her off, my voice cool. For what, exactly? For modernizing our outdated systems? For bringing in record profits? Or for not fitting into their idea of what a Sullivan daughter should be? Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, you're up to something, aren't you? Goodbye, Olivia. Enjoy the charity gala next week. I hung up, turning back to my work. The Summit Industries facility was nearly ready. Our staff was in place, and in exactly 13 days, the Harrison contract would be announced. Everything was falling into place. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." Sarah Martinez, my former executive assistant and now Summit's head of administrative operations, entered with a stack of papers. "Final contracts for the Harrison deal are ready for review. Also, you'll never guess who I just got off the phone with." I raised an eyebrow, gesturing for her to continue. "Sullivan's largest domestic client, Anderson Manufacturing. Apparently, they're concerned about recent management changes and wanted to know if you're available for a meeting." I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. Anderson had been one of my first major wins at Sullivan, turned around from a dissatisfied customer to a loyal partner. "Set up the meeting for after the Harrison announcement," I instructed. "Let's not show our hand too early." Sarah nodded, making a note. "One more thing. Your mother left 3 messages about the charity gala. She's insisting you attend to show there are no hard feelings." The charity gala, my family's annual display of power and influence in the Chicago business community. This year's event was scheduled for 2 days before the Harrison contract announcement. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. "Tell her I'll be there," I said, already imagining the scene. "After all, it's for charity." The next week passed quickly as we put the finishing touches on Summit Industries. Our facility was fully operational, the staff was trained on our new systems, and everything was in place for the Harrison contract to begin immediately upon announcement. Meanwhile, the messages from my family grew increasingly frequent. Marcus sent daily texts bragging about his improvements to the company. My father forwarded press releases about Sullivan Manufacturing's bright future under new leadership. My mother continued calling about the gala, desperate to present a united family front to their social circle. I responded to none of them. The night of the charity gala arrived, clear and cool. I chose my outfit carefully, a sharp black suit that screamed success, rather than the cocktail dress my mother had suggested. This wasn't a social event for me, this was business. As my car pulled up to the venue, I could see the Sullivan Manufacturing logo prominently displayed. 5 years ago, I had redesigned that logo as part of our modernization effort. Marcus had complained then that I was ruining our heritage. Now, he was happy to take credit for its success. "Emma, you came." My mother rushed forward as I entered, air-kissing my cheeks. "And you're wearing—" "Oh, well, you always did prefer suits." "Hello, Mother," I replied coolly. "Lovely event, as always." She grabbed my arm, steering me toward a group of society ladies. "Everyone's been asking about you. I've been telling them you're taking some time to reassess your priorities. Mrs. Hamilton's son is single, you know." I tuned her out, scanning the room. All the major players in Chicago manufacturing were here, just as I'd expected. In 2 days, they would all know about Summit Industries and the Harrison contract. But tonight, I would lay the groundwork. Marcus spotted me from across the room, smirking as he made his way over. Well, didn't expect to see you here, sis. How's unemployment treating you?" I smiled, taking a sip of champagne. "Surprisingly productive, actually." "How's the company?" His smirk faltered slightly. "Better than ever, though we seem to have lost some dead weight in staffing." "No big loss, I'm bringing in my own people." "Interesting approach," I replied. "I hope it works out for you." Before he could respond, I spotted James Harrison entering the gala. He caught my eye and nodded slightly, right on schedule. "If you'll excuse me," I said to Marcus, "I see someone I need to speak with." I left him standing there, confusion creeping across his face as he watched me greet one of the most influential CEOs in our industry like an old friend. The pieces were all in place. In 2 days, the Harrison contract would be announced, and Summit Industries would emerge as a major player in Chicago manufacturing. But tonight, I would enjoy watching my family try to maintain their illusion of control while their empire quietly crumbled around them. They had voted me out, thinking I was too soft for business. Soon they would learn that being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The morning of the Harrison contract announcement dawned bright and clear. I sat in my office at Summit Industries, watching the business news ticker scroll across my screen. In exactly 2 hours, the press release would hit, and my family's world would implode. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus: "Hope you're not still moping around. Big announcement at Sullivan today. Try not to be too jealous when you see it." I archived the message without responding. Let him enjoy his moment of arrogance. In 120 minutes, everything would change. Michael knocked on my door, tablet in hand. Final confirmation from Harrison's PR team. They're ready to go live at 10 a.m. sharp. Want to watch the Sullivan office from our security feed? I smiled, pulling up the video stream on my monitor. We had an excellent view of Sullivan Manufacturing's main office from our facility across the river. Is everything in place for our own announcement? Summit Industries signage is unveiled, press packets are ready, and that reporter from the Tribune is already waiting in the lobby. He paused, grinning. Your brother's going to have an aneurysm. At 9:55, I watched the Sullivan office come alive with activity. Through the windows, I could see Marcus strutting around, probably practicing his victory speech. He had no idea he was about to announce a contract that didn't exist. 9:58, my father arrived, his characteristic scowl visible even from this distance. 9:59, the office staff gathered, champagne bottles ready for what they thought would be a celebration. 10 o'clock, my phone exploded. The first call was from Olivia, her voice shrill with panic. "Emma, are you seeing this? Tell me this isn't real." "Sorry, can't talk right now," I replied calmly. "I have my own press announcement to handle." Through the security feed, I watched chaos erupt in the Sullivan offices. My father was gripping his desk, face purple with rage as he read the news. Marcus was frantically dialing his phone, probably trying to reach Harrison Industries. The headline flashed across every major business news outlet: Harrison Industries signs exclusive $50 million manufacturing contract with Summit Industries, new venture by former Sullivan Manufacturing COO. My father's call came next. I let it go to voicemail. Then Marcus, what did you do? Finally, a text from my mother: "Please tell me this is a mistake. Your father is having chest pains." I stood up, straightening my jacket. "Michael, is the press ready?" He nodded, barely containing his glee. "They're all assembled in the conference room. Your family's going to love the facility tour photos." The press conference was brief but devastating. I outlined Summit Industries' capabilities, introduced our experienced team. Watching my brother's face as he recognized his former employees was particularly satisfying, and detailed our partnership with Harrison Industries. "Miss Sullivan," a reporter called out, "any comment on the fact that you secured this contract just weeks after being voted out of your family's company?" I smiled directly into the cameras, knowing my family would be watching. Summit Industries represents a new direction in Chicago manufacturing. We believe in valuing expertise over tradition, innovation over stagnation, and merit over nepotism. I'll let our results speak for themselves. By noon, Sullivan Manufacturing stock had dropped 15%. By 2, Anderson Manufacturing had publicly announced they were reviewing their options regarding their Sullivan contracts. I was reviewing potential new client proposals when security called. "Miss Sullivan, your brother is in the lobby. He's quite insistent about seeing you." "Send him up," I replied. This confrontation was inevitable, might as well get it over with. Marcus burst into my office, face red with fury. "You backstabbing little," he stopped short, taking in the view of his family's company from my window. "How long have you been planning this?" "Planning what?" I asked innocently. "Starting my own company? Or proving that I'm not too soft for business? You stole our contract. Our employees." He slammed his hands on my desk. "Dad's talking to the lawyers right now. We'll sue you for everything you've got." I slid a folder across the desk. "You mean this contract? The one I negotiated personally for my company while you were busy redecorating my old office? Feel free to have the lawyers review it. Everything's perfectly legal." This was our deal. He sputtered. Sullivan's deal? No, I corrected him calmly. It was my deal with my client, who chose to work with me rather than a company that values family ties over competence, just like our employees chose to work here rather than stay under your leadership. He stared at me, realization finally dawning. You let us vote you out. You wanted this to happen. I learned from the best, brother dear. Isn't this exactly the kind of cutthroat business move you've always said I was too soft to make? Security appeared in the doorway. Everything all right, Miss Sullivan? Marcus straightened up, attempting to salvage some dignity. This isn't over, Emma. You have no idea what you've started. Actually, I do, I replied, turning back to my work. And unlike you, I'm prepared for what comes next. Jordan, please show my brother out. And Marcus, do give my best to the family. As the door closed behind him, I allowed myself a moment to savor the victory. They had underestimated me for the last time. My phone buzzed again, another text from my mother, family dinner tonight. We need to discuss this as a family. I typed back a quick response, sorry, can't make it. Board meeting with my actual business partners. Maybe next time. Through my window, I could see Marcus storming back into Sullivan Manufacturing. In the reflection of the glass, I caught sight of my own smile, confident, satisfied, and not even slightly soft. 6 months after the Harrison contract announcement, I stood in my office reviewing Summit Industries' latest quarterly reports. Our success had exceeded even my most optimistic projections. While Sullivan Manufacturing stock continued to struggle, Summit had become the talk of the Chicago business world. The family dinner invitations had finally stopped coming. After 3 months of increasingly desperate attempts to bring me back into the fold, my family had accepted that their power over me was gone. Marcus had been notably silent since his last failed attempt to poach our clients. My father's threats of legal action had evaporated once his lawyers reviewed our contracts. Even Olivia had stopped trying to play peacemaker. Miss Sullivan? Sarah appeared in my doorway. The Wall Street Journal reporter is here for your interview and… She hesitated, your mother is in the lobby. I looked up sharply. My mother? She says she won't leave until she speaks with you. I considered sending her away, but curiosity won out. Send her up. The reporter can wait 10 minutes. When my mother walked in, she looked older than I remembered. The carefully maintained facade of the Sullivan family matriarch had cracked slightly. The security guard made me sign in, she said, clearly offended, like a common visitor. That's company policy, I replied. Everyone signs in. Even family. Especially family. What do you want, Mother? She sank into the chair across from my desk, her posture still perfect even in defeat. Your father is stepping down as CEO. The board, they've lost confidence in the family's leadership. I leaned back, letting this sink in, the mighty Sullivan Manufacturing brought low by their own arrogance. And Marcus resigned last week. Most of our major clients have moved their contracts to Summit. She looked around my office, taking in the views, the modern decor, the subtle signs of success. You've done well for yourself. Is that why you're here? To acknowledge my success now that it's impossible to ignore? She flinched slightly. I'm here because I finally understand what we did wrong. We were so focused on preserving the family legacy that we forgot what actually built that legacy: innovation, adaptation, recognizing talent. She met my eyes. Everything you tried to tell us. And it only took losing half your market share to realize it, I said dryly. The board wants you back, she blurted out. They're prepared to offer you the CEO position. You could save the family company, prove to everyone that you're a true Sullivan. I stood up, walking to the window. From here I could see both companies, Sullivan Manufacturing, its aging facade showing signs of neglect, and Summit Industries, gleaming with possibility. That's the thing, Mother. I've already proven who I am, not as a Sullivan, but as myself. I built this company from nothing, without the family name or connections. My success came from my own work, my own vision. But the family legacy. The family legacy was dead long before I left. I cut her off. It died the moment you all decided that preserving the appearance of control was more important than actual innovation. I'm not interested in saving Sullivan Manufacturing. I'm focused on building Summit's future. She stood slowly, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I suppose that's your final word on the matter. It is. I turned back to face her. But since you're here, would you like a tour of my company? See what your soft daughter built while you weren't watching? Something flickered across her face, regret, perhaps, or recognition. I would like that very much. As I showed her around Summit Industries, introducing her to our team and demonstrating our innovative processes, I saw her truly seeing me for the first time, not as the daughter who didn't fit their mold, but as the businesswoman who had surpassed their expectations. The reporter from the journal is still waiting, Sarah reminded me after my mother left. I nodded, returning to my office. The story they wanted to write would focus on Summit's meteoric rise, but I knew the real story wasn't about business success. It was about breaking free from the constraints of others' expectations, about building something new instead of trying to fix something broken. My phone buzzed, a message from my mother, "You've built something remarkable. I wish we had seen it sooner." I smiled, archiving the message with all the others. The time for family approval had passed. I had something better now, self-validation, earned success, and the knowledge that being too soft for their world had made me strong enough to build my own. Looking out at my company, my real legacy, I felt nothing but pride. Let Sullivan Manufacturing fade into history. Summit Industries was the future, and that future was entirely mine.